Welcome, Dr. Patrick MacManaway is on the show today. So, Dr. MacManaway is an author and a teacher extraordinaire. And what does he teach? You're going to hear all about land whisperings. You've heard about the ley lines of the earth. And this fellow is so fascinating. He hails from up near the Ring of Brodgar in Scotland. Oh, it's Mr. Dr. Patrick MacManaway. Welcome.
Yes.
How are you? I haven't seen you in a long time.
I'm
Welcome.
thinking we did this before, didn't we, Mary?
I know that's what I was just thinking. It's over a decade though ago, the first time
No.
things, but I would love for you, Dr. MacManaway, to tell us a bit about what you do. The listeners we have are going to be newcomers to the idea and practitioners though of energy work, and then just the curious. So I've seen such a change over the last 10 years. So please introduce yourself to everyone.
Thank you, Mary. Absolute pleasure to be with you again. And yes, thank you for the opportunity to share and connect with your wide audience there. Maybe, Mary, just big picture, let me take 3 steps back before we get into any detail. Looking deeply into the difference between sustainable culture truly and non-sustainable culture actually, and lots of historical and geographical examples of those. There's 2 things that we need to get our heads around and reclaim as Western consciousness mindset to replace ourselves into the jigsaw of ecology and the family of things. And so the first of those is our relationship with time. And the second co-equal actually is our relationship with place. So just with time, agricultural peoples, indigenous peoples, anybody living in relation to the land is inevitably on circular consciousness because it's always spring and then it's autumn and then it's summer and it's the time of planting and harvesting and the gathering of maple syrup and the fishing of fish and the making of whiskey and the threshing of the corn. And so when we're on a circular cycle, inevitably repeating, what we tend to do is get very good at doing those things because we've done them many times before, or our ancestors did them. We get smarter and cleverer and more adept. But what it does, the circularity actually brings us into present moment. So it's all about being here now and doing something familiar in the best way that we possibly can. And so this is good. Post-industrial around the world, we've moved on to linear time, which has become a linear economic, whereby we think that what we really want is somewhere else and down the road a bit, and looks like more money, more power, more sex, more influence, more, I don't know, lobster, whatever's your thing. But it isn't here now, it's there then, and what we therefore want to do is to pursue that linear path away from here. And it comes with the association of expansion of prosperity and expansion of power influence. And so now we measure our national economy's health on its growth rate. And the more it grows, the better we think things are. However, having a medical degree and a background in holistic therapies, we've got a name for something that keeps on growing inside of a system without constraint or integration, and obviously that is cancer. So by moving onto a linear scale of time, we've disconnected from the renewable and sustainable relationship in that way. And then the second thing, Mary, is our relationship with landscape. And historically, for the last, I don't know, 800,000 years or something, as long as we've been around, we've not believed but known and interacted in present time with significant circumstance and tangible outcome with the animate intelligence of our environment. However we language it, the spirit or the intelligence of stream and spring and river and weather and soil fertility and plants and animals. And through the Paleolithic, that did us well. And then we had 6,500 years in Western Europe of sustainable agriculture, where the core practice was talking to the land and doing everything it told us to do. And that was all good. And then the last 100 years, we've switched to a more analytical and industrial relationship with land, but specifically lost the conversation with the growing intelligences that we're stewarding, and that's looking like it's not a very good go long term. So just wanted to, for your listeners, frame those two things, biggest of all pictures, circular time. And I don't know, I don't like to put anything in a box, but I guess if we were boxing it, animate awareness and interaction. I think those two things, if we can get those back in to our conversation, you and me and your listeners and day to day, then the job's done and we can relax. And
Well, talking to you or listening to you right now has just totally grounded me because of your voice, but it's just because it's you. And talking right now, we're talking with Dr. Patrick MacManaway, and he was giving us an overview of what's gone on our planet in terms of we've gone from circular time to linear time. So you have an overview of what's wrong. But the beautiful thing about you is that you are actively doing your whole life things to help make it right. And your approach, has it changed? And, what the future of your work is going to be. So maybe if I could just give a little example of something I remember from an old interview is you talking about going to a farm and there's the energies on the farm and about ley lines and everything. But what you can do is help to heal energy. And so you can help to get it back into balance. Okay, so that's my word. So now can you explain a bit about that's what I remember you doing, but now you're getting more into the quantum, just from looking at your amazing courses that are coming up, quantum field and etc. So now I'm ungrounded again. So let's listen to you again.
yeah, they get language all kinds of ways, Mary, depending on the circumstance. But all truth is simple and all truth is universal. And there's probably only, 3 truths that we need to pay attention to. And it just applies to everything. A great deal of my work, as you're referencing, is working with landscape. That's my sort of space of primary service. And so with landscape, we're looking at the underlying spirit of place, the geology, the formative forces there. They've seen ice ages, dinosaurs, volcanoes, people coming and going. So there's an underlying spirit of place that defines the base note. And then there's pathways of energy that distribute electromagnetism, geomagnetism, underground water, geological faults, fractures, fissures, overground Birkeland currents, ley lines. And then we look at the elemental consciousness and whether it's clearly aligned and at peace and in full awareness of what the people are doing, so that we can be supported by that sort of the formative forces of place. That's a really important conversation to have for the elementals of place, to establish boundary and identity.
Okay,
And then
so specifically, like, I'd just like to understand what you mean there is like for a person like anybody like me, how can we be of help in terms of that? And like you can see, that's what you're teaching people, is how they can affect the land or the elementals.
mostly how to get into relationship, I think, is the key. We've had a long time of sort of command control consciousness. The issue really is to get into a community of cooperative relationship with the elemental and nature spirit and angelic guiding intelligences in your landscape and community, and just through a process of interaction and connection, see how that inspires your mind. And there's no right way to do it except the way you do it personally. And in principle, all we do is we get into a very calm and peaceful and centered space, and a very sort of loving and graceful, gratitudinal space. And then we hold literally whatever we want to connect with in our mind. And that automatically engages and entrains and creates a connection and a rapport with that thing, whether it's the spirit of your house or your river or your valley or your business or your family or your community, or the gnomes in the greenhouse that need a bit of help with the tomatoes this year. So whatever the thing is that we need to have a chat with, we just get into a calm gray space, hold it in mind, and then energize that thought with love and attention until it feels substantially connected to us and a rapport. And then we simply have a conversation which happens through the imagination, because that's the organ of psyche that does that. But it's a real conversation. And so we project our asks, our needs, our love, our respect, and then we hold a deep listening where we observe what comes into a thought, mind, inner vision, imagination, deep knowing, either immediately at the time or subsequently in a sleeping dream space, or random, insights while we're doing the dishes or doing the school run.
Well, that is a practical guide on how to keep balanced and to live a beautiful, peaceful life, isn't it? In a nutshell.
It's the best I've got, Mary.
No, that's it. That's beautiful. So I know that a lot of people today are seeking like personal healing and balance, and they probably, a lot of people don't even know the right words to ask, like you're saying. So I have had a background in new practitioners of energy healing and stuff for quite some time. And so I have a good all-round knowledge about it, but maybe a lot of people that are listening may not. So if somebody was interested in being peaceful and balanced right now in this wild world, I know you've got some, well, first of all, let's talk about you. I'd like to ask you that though, about if you give them a direction on, where to begin kind of thing. But for you, you're all over the world. You're in the United States, you're in the UK, you're in Australia, and you have these amazing courses coming up. And I see that even in another week or so, you're going to be over in Australia, right? So do you want to talk about some of your courses that you do? It's Dr. Patrick MacManaway here, folks. And he's a how do you describe yourself? Can you give us a one sentence on Dr. Patrick MacManaway? Oh, he's an
I
author, and you can tell us about your books and
I
stuff.
think at this point, Land Whisperer
Okay, I love
uh,
that.
is probably the best catch-all. Yeah, third generation practitioner of psychic and healing arts, degree in medicine, President British Society of Dowsers, author, blah blah, but only as good as the job I did 2 hours ago. On the website, there's under teleclasses, there's a series of 11 pre-recordeds that I did during COVID because I was teaching that stuff in person as I am again now, but I couldn't then. So all of my sort of workshop content actually is in those 11 teleclasses on the website. And then outside of that, I am doing in-person 3 and sometimes 4 day, depending on host venue workshops, Australia, Vermont, and the UK on a rotating basis
Well,
every year. And then separately from that, I'm available for individual consultation or mentoring like that.
well, those teleseries, that is amazing gift to the world. And one thing I'd like to ask about talking about the world right now too is have you noticed that certain places are more active or because of the world being so different than even 10 years ago? Like, have you?
Oh gosh, Mary. What I've come to learn both by studying astrology and listening to previous generations and observing in my life is it, as we're describing, it's consciousness is cyclical. We can map the great year of whatever it is, 21, 6,000 years, 23,000 something years. I studied astrology. I did my first 5 charts by hand. What I learned was it's changing all the time.
Yeah.
And my ultimate go back to was it's changing all the time, go with the flow and stay with the flow and keep aligned. So I think I don't know what sort of point of reference of then and now we ever take. I think,
Yeah.
as you very well know, we're kind of here and now, and we're in the surf, and this is today, and the sun came up on the east, and life is waiting for us to dance with it.
That's excellent. I love that. It's so true. But I have a mantra. It's my life flows with ease and joy and glory. Bring the divine in at the end.
I subscribe to that. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Um, so what would you like to talk about now? Is there something that you'd like to share that have you've seen? Like, like I remember you talking about the Ring of Brodgar before and how special it was. So to you, because that is in your neck of the woods where you were born and raised. But are there other places that you've come to that are as special to you, or is just everything special now?
Um, oh, that's such an important question, Mary. I think I think the best thing is for us to see the special nature of each place and recognize that they're all different and they're all special. And actually, in a couple of days, I'm going back to my first supermarket job. 30 years ago, I worked on it first. And I was a little bit confronted because I'd grown up in healing and sacred spaces, and I was being asked to work on a shopping mall, which at first glance looked all commercial and whatever I thought about that. And then I had a second think about it, and I realized this is actually one of the most sacred spaces in the community.
Wow.
This is literally where people come to uh, effectively gather and harvest their food, make nutritional choices, economic choices for their family. We want that to be clear. We want that to be well resourced. We want that to be peaceful. We want people to be in a good state of mind to, make wise choices for themselves. And there's people making a living, checking out and stacking shelves, and people bringing and transporting. And I realized actually this is what we used to call, the market cross. This is actually the center of community and the most sacred thing of all. And so I had to get my head around, whatever judgments I was holding about that at the time. And subsequently for the same client, I work on 10 or 20 of those a year. But I think the thing is to love and celebrate each space for what it is, whether it's home or supermarket or mountaintop or tennis court or boat ramp or restaurant. There are sacred places in different categories, and I would just say, sort of blanket over that, I learned from a very wise tree farming friend who I worked with and for 20 years. He said the sacred is the thing that energizes the system without itself becoming deplete.
Oh.
So it was a sense of the sacred of being a fountain of inspiration, resource, energy, that might be your favorite restaurant, or it might be a mountaintop, or it might be where you launch your boat to go sailing. So we can get into earth energies and geomancy, but I think we should keep a big picture, and we instinctively navigate those places. And I think what's important is to connect regularly with places that inspire us.
Yes, and I totally see what you're saying, and also how we can influence those places as well with our own thoughts and actions. Like I have a friend that has a farm, and she said that she and her husband had built a special something on their farm, and she said that she thinks like 6 generations after they're long gone, that people will walk through that one field and still think, wow, this feels really nice here. So I think we all have a purpose to do, to make things better than they were when we arrived. And how we can do that is like the things that you're saying is, with our intentions and our thoughts, and actually getting out there like you're doing. I've been hibernating. So I miss going out and finding new sacred places. So
Mary, your thoughts carry around the world from wherever you're sitting in a nanosecond. Location is just, it doesn't apply to the mind. It doesn't apply to the astral body.
Yep. Well, I do like to go though.
Me too.
When I was a child, my mom wrote it in the baby book. There are all kinds of siblings, but mine was, I want to go to town. So I always like going where the party is, I guess. But so you are doing that though. So I know you're doing it in your mind, sending all those thoughts around the world, the loving ones. And now you're actually going out there and helping get the word out about the great energy awakening that's been happening, in our lifetimes.
There really seems to be a tidal wave, doesn't there?
Mm-hmm. Yay for you.
It's delightful for me. No, I'm part of it. I see it all around me. It's thrilling.
Beautiful. Well, I'd like to go back to something you said, because we probably only have a few minutes left. It's a short show here, but you said there are 3 truths that apply to everything. And so you didn't say what they were. And so Did you have any in mind when you said that, or do you know what you were thinking? Because that was earlier.
Oh, so yes. So I think first one is all truth is simple and all truth applies universally. Oh gosh, we could make a big long list, but just keeping it tight. Pure simple love is universal life force, basically. Life force is pure simple love. And so the application of that to anything makes it optimize. And all healing is the application of that. And all relationship is based on that. It's all about relationship with self, with other, and other, including human, non-human, and seen and unseen. And the universal set of relational principles apply to whatever we're connecting with. Respect, dignity, love, appropriate boundaries, and a tone of grace in the space between us for all communication and transaction to occur from. But that's the same as we do, 3D person to person. So above, below, inside, without. All truth is universal and simple. Love's the go, and relationship is our practice. And right relationship has a single set of principles that applies across all dimensions and time. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That is so beautiful and something that all of us need to ponder. And we can look at the YouTube for Dr. Patrick MacManaway and learn on the simplest forms about dowsing. He has an amazing book about that. And then more about quantum things. He's done a whole series on YouTube that he's mentioned. So Dr. Patrick MacManaway is a fascinating, beautiful soul, and I'm so happy that you joined us today. So thank you for coming on the show and explaining a little bit about your thoughts on life, because they are so beautiful. So I'll let you finish the show with any words of wisdom for us, or how's that sound?
Barry, bless you. Thank you so much for including me. Thank you for all the work you're doing and the love you're sharing and the network you're holding. And yeah, just pleasure and privilege to be able to share into that from here. Thanks a lot.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye, doctor. Bye-bye.